Good news, ladies and gentlemen. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense may no longer be the most pathetic offense in the NFL. Matt Canada is out of there. And to talk about this offense, we really need to put into perspective exactly how bad it's been. Because I understand, yes, we can sit here and we can all laugh and go, oh my gosh, what a horrible but really to look at the numbers, it's astonishing. Kenny Pickett has 6 passing touchdowns this season. And that's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. He's averaging about 1 passing touchdown for every 2 games. If we go through and look at what you have from a yardage perspective, Kenny Pickett's season high on passing yards in a game was 235. In 10 games, the most passing yards we've had in this offense is 235. It's unbelievable. Now, obviously, this is a team that wins football games, right? And I think that's why Matt Canada has been able to stick around as long as he has. But if you look at these games, they're just winning with defense. They're winning at the very end as well. I mean, if you look at the actual points scored from this offense, 7, 26, 23, 6, 17, 24, 10, 20, 23, 10. It's a team that hasn't scored 30 points in a single week this year. So this has been one of the worst offenses overall. Now, is the change in offensive coordinators really going to sit here and make us think that this is all of a sudden going to be a great offense? No, probably not, right? But the thing is, it can't get worse. It can't be less creative than it was. So what I'm looking at is I'm going to be looking at the players in Pittsburgh that we know are going to get volume. Those are the guys that I believe we can say are going to benefit from this the most. I think we bump up Deontay Johnson. I think that you possibly bump up Jaylen Warren as well. Now, with Jaylen Warren, it really comes down to who's dictating that this is a running back by committee with Najee, right? Because if that's a Tomlin call, then nothing's going to change. If Matt Canada had a pretty large say in that, then maybe if we expect Jaylen Warren to have an expanded role, Jaylen Warren can be very exciting going forward. It just really does come down to what are you expecting there. And Kurgan says, lifelong Steelers fan, Pickett is not the quarterback of the future. 100%, I understand that. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is some great quarterback and Matt Canada is the only reason why he's been horrendous. But can this offense get worse? And that is my main question. Typically, I'll say with these coaching changes, I don't know what to expect. We'll react when we see them on the field. I just think that there's only one place to go from here, especially if you're looking at guys at the bottom end, such as Deontay Johnson, who's currently on flogfantasy.com being valued as like a wide receiver 4 if you look at the community rankings. But let's go ahead and let's dive into some of these questions. I'm sure we'll have some questions regarding this. Jake coming out with our first one saying 12-team full BBR 8-3. We have Hurts, Jacobs, Connor, Tyreek, Ayuk, Hockenson, Singletary, Jason Reed, Chuba Spears. Trade Ayuk for James Cook and Devontae Adams, or Ayuk and Reed for Saquon and Judy. Should we stay put? In any playoff advice? So, obviously Ayuk has been phenomenal. It's kind of crazy that he hasn't taken a step back at all with Deebo Samuel coming back into this offense. Now, if we're looking at Adams versus Ayuk, I just ranked Ayuk ahead of Devontae Adams in our rankings this week based off how much better the 49ers are. If you're looking at James Cook maybe does make a difference in this running back room. Saquon and Judy, really, Judy's not going to move the needle here too much. But the question is, would we make a play? Would we sell Brandon Ayuk for Saquon Barkley? I think possibly. My hesitation is, though, if you are looking at this from a playoff perspective, Saquon Barkley does have one of the worst playoff schedules you are going to find. And obviously, with how bad this team is as well, see, if he stubs his toe on the living room couch, he's not coming back, right? There'd be no reason for him to go out there and play through an injury as well, which is just a slight concern. Now, let's smooth this over. Patrick says, 2 quarterback PPR, 10-team league, 6 and 5. Hurts, Fields, Hall, Connor, Jefferson, Wilson, Kelsey, Achane, Jason, Spears, Minshew, Deontay, Aaron Jones. Traded Kyler and McBride for Jefferson, then Waddle for Fields. Anything else? I was going to say not a massive Kyler and McBride for Jefferson fan until we saw the Waddle for Fields. So if that's the price point of quarterbacks here, love it. Honestly, great spot to be in. And honestly, going forward, I don't necessarily think that there is much. If it is a 6-point passing touchdown format, I'd see if we could possibly flip Justin Fields and find a little bit more from another quarterback. But in a 4-point passing touchdown league, I really like building around these guys that are going to have the rushing upside. Now, let's get, we need to have the Flock Cup on more live streams here. Let me get some water, ladies and gentlemen. And also, if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on this stream. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. I mean, we have live streamed every single day since April, not stopping until 2024. And if you wanted to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, maybe you want to go out there and say, oh, no Matt Canada, Kenny Pickett will have more than 188.5 passing yards. You can find that link to Underdog in the live chat description comment section. Promo code Flock, 100% a positive match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and a Christian McCaffrey special pick'em more than less than half a total yard. But Eric says 12-team PPR, 3 receivers and a flex. We have Mixon, Hall, Hill, Ayuk, Olave, Dell, Amari. Wanting Eckler, he wants Mixon and Hall plus Olave, Dell. Okay, so essentially we send him like Mixon and Olave, and he gives us Austin Eckler. So the interesting thing with Eckler here is, first off, I'm biased. I didn't really draft him at all this year. I thought that the target volume was going to come down given the addition of Quentin Johnston, a healthy Mike Williams, and a healthy Keenan Allen. Clearly, we are so deadly wrong. But at the same time, the target volume, for whatever reason, has come down, even with this team having really no passing weapons this season outside of Keenan Allen. So I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think Austin Eckler is nearly as appealing as he was just 2 months ago. If I were to make a trade, I think we'd be selling Olave and Mixon. Because if you look at Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, they are in relatively similar situations at this point. And that with Mixon, the reason why he has a cap ceiling is it's a horrendous offense. The same thing with Breece Hall. But the difference is Breece Hall is just a much better running back at this point of their respective careers. I mean, if Burrow was healthy, give me Mixon. But Eric says, we also have an offer to receive Gibbs for Mixon and Amari. I would rather make this play. If it's a full BBR format, let me sell Mixon and Amari and go get Gibbs. Get out of 2 horrendous offenses and get one we're excited about. Kobe, longtime member of the Flock, happy to see us, says, tied for first in a 10-team BBR. Did a controversial trade, gave away Keenan and Kyron for Swift and Kincaid because of Andrews. You lost, my friend. I'm sorry. We have Tyreek and Dell, Pacheco, Pollard. Keenan would be a sell based off matchups, right? The issue with calling Keenan a sell, and I mean, we actually just had to go through and look at a matchup this week, him going up against Baltimore, which obviously is one of the toughest matchups you can find, is especially in a full BBR format, even if Keenan Allen maybe is capped with touchdown upside or big plays given a matchup that he potentially has, he can still get there off of cheap receptions. We know Keenan Allen's someone that can go out and have a game with 8 receptions, 45 receiving yards, and nothing in the touchdown category, which typically you'd say, okay, that's not a good real life game, and the defense definitely limited him. But in a full BBR format, he still gets there. So I understand why you go ahead and panic and make that move whenever you lose Mark Andrews. I still probably would rather have Keenan. And I did not draft that much Keenan at all. I thought that a target volume was going to go down with him going into year 10. But if you just acknowledge what's happened here in Los Angeles, literally every single player in this offense has gotten injured. But Keenan. Now, Crenabo says, say shoddy, full BBR, Lamar, Howell, Henry, JT, Warren, Pacheco, Keaton, Wilson, Godwin, London, Dell, Downs, Laporta. Who we starting? Lots of good matchups. We need 2 flexes. Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry, actually viable this week, of course. But quarterback, we will go ahead. We will play Lamar Jackson. Should be a very high-scoring game for that offense. Running back, we're going to go ahead. We're going to play Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor. Typically not a massive Derrick Henry guy, but going up against Carolina, kind of have to do it. Wide receiver, we're going to go Tank Dell, wide receiver 1 for this team. Probably wide receiver 2, we're going to go Garrett Wilson. And then for the flex spots, we're going to play Isaiah Pacheco. And then your call between the leftover wide receiver, you probably go Chris Godwin. Even though Godwin has been ultimately very disappointing with the volume he's gotten this season. I mean, the volume's there, just the efficiency is not. And then obviously Laporta at tight end, my friend. But thank you so much, as always. Carson says, should we trade away Lamb and Singletary for Hurts, Montgomery, Kupp? My wide receiver 1's Tyreek. My quarterback's Howell. And my running backs are Amadre, Mostert, Singletary. So Singletary to Montgomery, upgrade. Lamb to Hurts and Kupp. We have Sam out. Interesting. You're clearly giving up the best player in the deal. I think it is a fair price point if you expect Cooper Kupp to be fine coming back from the injury. So very rarely would I say to sell CeeDee Lamb at this point of the season, but if you have full faith in Kupp coming back in, you can make that trade if you want to. If you want to. Sleep Deprived's coming out saying, rest of season, my man, I don't know if you know this about me, but I am the last person you want to ask about kickers. Same thing, Kurgan. I am the last person that you want to be asking about individual defensive players. When it comes to IDP, when it comes to kickers, I'm clueless, and I promise you know more than I do. I mean, I play in almost every single fantasy football format imaginable across all my Dynasty leagues. But the one thing that I've done is I have completely axed kickers from all my leagues. And on top of that, I mean, I haven't joined a single IDP league ever. Now, Austin says 12-team PBR 8-3. Stroud, Fields, Brees, Pollard, Ford, Walker, Charbonnet, Singletary, Spears. Tyreek, Amon-Ra, McBride, Taysom. Couldn't be happy with the receivers. A little shaky on the running backs. Who to look to trade for before the deadline. I mean, the running backs are fine, right? A full PBR format. I would love to get off of Walker if we can. The issue is now it's probably a little bit too late. I mean, if you could sell like Walker and Fields, knowing that we have Stroud, or Walker and Stroud, knowing that we have Fields, and possibly get over to like Bijan, who has the #1 playoff schedule of any running back, and at the same time is going to catch the ball. You can look to do that if you would really want to. Dendrick says Adams, Foreman for Raheem and Hopkins. My team is Dak, Hill, Connor, Ingram, Walker, Lockett. So if we're looking at the Walker injury, Walker's for sure not going to play this week. Next week is very much a possibility. I would say that Adams probably has the majority of the long-term value. Deonta Foreman maybe not even be worth a roster spot at this point. So honestly, don't take him into consideration at all here. It's really just, do you want Adams or Raheem and Hopkins? I will say, if you're going to go out there and you're going to trade for Raheem right now with the Walker injury, it's probably the good time to be doing so, considering the fact that if Achan's banged up in the short term, obviously Raheem can crush while Walker's out. Josh says, hey Mason, 10-team BBR double flex. We have Herbert, Barkley, JT, Swift, Charbonnet, Keenan, Ridley, Puka, Kincaid. Any moves? Thanks, bro. Thank you. Very well-balanced team if this is a double flex league. So honestly, no, I don't necessarily think that we do anything. I think we just have to hope that Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert are able to overcome some really tough matchups here. So I'm probably just going to be chilling and sit on my hands, to be honest with you. Steve says, crazy for wanting to sit Eckler and start Kyron and Gus. I understand where you're coming from. You can't, though. You have to play Eckler over Gus, please. I mean, it is frustrating, though, that Eckler's not catching the ball nearly as much as you would expect. Now, Will says, a full BBR 12-team league. Traded Tua and Pollard for Swift, Dobbs for Swift. and Dobbs, Laporta, Lockett for Olave, Ingram. How do you feel? How do you view Fields rest of the season? Okay, so as long as we have Fields, I think Fields will be someone that's viable in a 4-point passing touchdown format based off his rushing upside. I think both deals are fine under the assumption you have that quarterback such as Justin Fields that you are fine to go through and start every single week. Now, Michael says, my man, 12-team, have BBR 8-3. We have Herbert, Eckler, JT Diggs, Puka, Ferguson, White. Kyron on the bench in Singletary. He had Andrews, but injured now. Trade Ferguson, White, Singletary for Hawkinson. So we have the running backs at the very top where we can go ahead and we can afford this move. I would say yes. While I hope that I'm wrong. I hope Singletary rest of season comes out here and he turns into a true running back one. The reality of the situation is if Dameon Pierce comes back in, it's probably going to be a split backfield, even if Singletary's the RB1 in the committee. I don't know how reliable he is. I hope I'm wrong. We drafted a lot of them, but it is tough. Alex says, 10-team PPR, would you trade Jefferson for Jonathan Taylor? I initially offered Jefferson for JT and Smith, and he said yes, but then got hesitant when he said Jefferson doesn't care about fantasy. Now that is just obnoxious. Yeah, no NFL player cares about fantasy football. I know Austin Eckler has the fantasy football show, and it's great for his brand. To be honest, I doubt he cares too much about it. No NFL player cares about fantasy. Should we offer Ayuk, Jefferson for JT and Smith? Nope. I think if you wanted to make the JT trade, just go ahead and just trade Justin Jefferson for Jonathan Taylor. I don't act like it's the best deal ever, but it's 100% something you can do. Alex says, hey Mason, 6-5 PPR. Kyler, Diggs, Ayuk, JT, Bijan, Kincaid, Jacobs, Chuba, Watson, Lockett, Purdy. What moves do we make, if any? Week 13 bye scares me. Could we do Tyreek, Pacheco for Diggs, Bijan? Okay. I understand where you're coming from, especially if we're 6-5, right? We're going to be battling it out to get into the fantasy football playoffs here. However, to be honest with you, there's no way that we can go through and sell Tyreek and Pacheco for Diggs and Bijan just because of the bye. Or in any bye. Oh, actually, no. We're the team selling Diggs and Bijan for Tyreek and Pacheco. Okay, yeah, we're going to go ahead and make that move, my friend. I mean, yeah, it obviously would help us out with the bye week just a bit. And the bye week may matter there if you are 6-5. But yeah, Tyreek, the main reason I'm doing is I'd rather have Tyreek straight up, my friend. Now, Shamil says, hey, Mason, we have Etienne, Montgomery, Bijan, Keenan, Puka, Pittman. Got offered CMC for Bijan and Pittman. You take CMC and you run. Assuming it's a redraft league. Assuming it's a redraft league, my man. Brian says 7-4 PBR 10-teamer. Should we sell Waddle and for who? I would say no because you're going to have a hard time selling Waddle. I mean, if you look at his flockfantasy.com community rankings right now, he's in there as like a mid-wide receiver 2. I think probably is a mid-wide receiver 2 rest of season, so probably not. Michael says, which quarterbacks would you trade Saquon for in his Superflex league? Good question. So a couple different things about a Superflex league is it's going to depend on the amount of teams that are in the league. If you just go through and run through the supply and demand of the quarterback position in a 10-team format, going to be much easier to find quarterbacks there versus if it was like a 14-team league, they were going to be putting a much larger premium on quarterbacks. But nonetheless, if we are looking at this, I would trade Saquon for Hurts, Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, Stroud, Herbert. If you needed a quarterback, you're going to be looking at like those top 6 guys, absolute no-brainers. But then when we get into Kyler, Tua, Dak, Fields, then it's going to be up to how bad we need a quarterback. And anybody below that, I'd say probably not. Okay. Jeremiah says, full BBR got offered Chase and Ford or Devonta Smith and Charbonnet for Diggs. What do you think? Make a move or holds? Chase and Ford, or Devonta Smith and Charbonnet for Diggs? What do you think? Make a move or hold? I would rather have Stephon Diggs unless you are desperate for running back production. Yeah, I don't know if you can get away from Stephon Diggs there. The issue is if you're going to be looking at someone like Chase, just in the worst offense in the NFL at this point, or one of a bottom 5 offense. Now, 44 MSU says, PBR pick 2, Debo, Flowers, Waddle this week. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Debo and Waddle. I will say Waddle is going to have a brutal matchup. And I repeat, brutal matchup going up against the Jets. And I guess Flowers is going to expand his role just a bit with no Mark Andrews in here. So I understand it. You could make that move if you wanted. But I'm just going to go ahead and play Waddle for the time being. Steak says, Quentin Johnson, Christian Watson. Is there any hope for these guys at all? Sell me a dream, please. So, I mean, I like Quentin. I was fine with both these guys coming into the season. I was actually drafting Christian Watson. I didn't draft a lot of Quentin Johnson, but I wasn't like smart enough to say like, oh, clear a void by any means. I thought Quentin Johnson checked pretty much every single box we looked for. True freshman breakout, dominated as true sophomore, cleared as true junior, round 1 draft pick to a good NFL team. He checks all the big boxes. But when you face plant this to this extent as a rookie, what we've historically seen is these guys don't make it back, right? These guys don't turn it around. So there's probably very little hope for Quentin Johnson at this point. And if you're going to go ahead and look at Christian Watson, I don't want to say, obviously it's very difficult to ever call a player injury prone, especially at the very beginning of their NFL career. But this is someone that was dealing with injuries, obviously, as a rookie. It's carried that over to where if you look at the majority of his games played, I mean, how many games this year did Christian Watson go in and get banged up? You know, so I don't even like looking at the per game numbers for Christian Watson this season, given how much they're really skewed. Jaggy says, no Andrews, trade Pacheco for Schultz. Running backs are Gibbs and Kamara. And you can. I do expect the target volume to be dispersed a little bit more once we I don't know. Well, once we get Noah Brown, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins all good to go. Now, Brutus, always happy to see us. To say, Mason, I'm 8-3 in Los Andrews. Backup was Frymuth, but we just made a trade to send Wilson for Laporta. That is a tight end that I like making the move for. Great trade. Receivers are now Hill, Lamp, Dell, Ridley. What are your thoughts? Love it. I mean, Zach Wilson gets benched, but it's not like they have anybody else to go through and put in for him. So right now, if you actually look at the Jets, they have the lowest implied team total of any team in the NFL this week. So it's not like it's going to be much better with no Zach Wilson here. Jonas says, should we trade my Brees and Kirk for Swift? If it is a start 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I'd be okay with it based off how bad that Jets offense is. Austin says, traded Brees and ETN for CMC, where we also have JT and HN. I believe you play in an 8-team league, if I remember correctly, my friend. And if that's the case, immaculate deal. 20 says, need a flex. Cook, McLaurin, Reed, or Gabe. James Cook, very tough matchup against Philly. If it is a full BBR format, we're just going to go ahead and play Terry McLaurin, even if McLaurin has a very tough matchup against Dallas. Now, Phoenix says, happy Thanksgiving, Mason. How do you rate these waiver wire options in a full PBR league? Jeb Wilson, Miles Sanders, Latavius Murray, and Elijah Moore. Sanders 1. Elijah 2, Wilson 3, Latavius 4. My issue with Latavius, right, is, and I could be wrong with this, but I don't really see any upside in that if you were to get an injury to James Cook, does Latavius step in as a starting running back? I would say probably not, right? It's probably a split backfield between Leonard Fournette and Latavius Murray. And I don't think Latavius is good enough to ever be a start in a running back by committee. I don't think they're ever giving Latavius 20 touches a game. I could be wrong. Maybe Leonard Fournette literally just has nothing left in the tank. Now, Scar Shiesty says, standard scoring 12-team league. Should we trade Warren and Goff for Kyler? Yes, you should. Other running backs are Bijan Gibbs. Yeah, so we have a great running back room. Let's go ahead and let's go get Kyler Murray. I mean, with Jalen Warren, if Matt Canada leaving this team means that they're going to start using him as a 3-down back, then obviously Jalen Warren's great. Just have no idea if that's actually going to happen. Now, ASAP says, Charbonnet or Achane if active? Or Terry. I'm going to go Achane if active. The issue is he plays on Friday. Charbonnet plays on Thursday. I would rather have Charbonnet over Terry. And then trade ETN for JT. I'd probably rather have ETN. It's very close. Keith says, what move should we make 10-team BBR? We have Kyler, JT, Bijan, Tank, Dell, Pittman, McBride, Olave. And then on the bench, Smith, Najee, Pickens, Khalil, Judy, Charbonnet. I really don't have much for you here. I mean, if you wanted to approach the Kenneth Walker team and offer them Zach Charbonnet and like Chris Olave and see if we can get an elite level wide receiver in return for the flex, maybe that's something you can do. Just Sherman says DJ Moore for Jacobs or a mid to late first dynasty. We need running backs. I mean, I would rather have the first round pick over DJ Moore if it's a super flex league. If you're looking at Jacobs versus DJ Moore, if you are a contender, then sure, go get Jacobs. But it really comes down to like, are you a contender or are you a rebuilder? Because if you're rebuilding, just give me the pick and the flexibility. Kyle says trade Jefferson for Eckler, who's better rest of season in a full PPR. If you are a locked and loaded playoff team, I think you make an argument for Jefferson. The issue is, if you're still battling for the playoffs, if Jefferson doesn't play this week and he has the bye next week, it's very tough to make that argument. Michael says, just confirming, man, we like Kyron in the flex, giving away Singletary, White, Ferguson for Hawkinson. We have Herbert, Eckler, JT, Diggs, Puka, Ferguson, White right now. I don't love this deal. I think that you are probably overpaying just a bit. But ultimately, Ferguson's not really someone that we can trust starting at tight ends. We don't know how long we are going to get Devin Singletary. So say Dameon Pierce comes back in 2 weeks. It's a running back by committee in Houston. Singletary is no longer startable. And we had the ability to cash out on the value now, and we didn't do it. It is a little tough, my friend. Now, Spencer says 12-team PPR single flex. Just traded for Sutton. We have Hurts, Gibbs, Montgomery, Ford, Keaton, Ridley, Addison, Sutton. Should we trade Montgomery for DJ Moore? I would say hell no. We wouldn't have a running back too. I'm not starting Ford. Yeah, I would not do that. And I would be interested to know that trade that you made for Sutton. I do think that Sutton is going to come back down to earth a ton. Now, Thin Blue Line says 10-team at BBR 5 and 6. We are offered DK for my Gus. Do we accept? Starters are Lamar, Eckler, Mixon, Chase, Ayuk, Hopkins, Watson, Ingram. We lost Andrews, Flex, Gus. Gus, week 13 bye, you're saying yada, yada, yada. It's 5 and 6 team where we need to be winning games to get into the playoffs. We're looking for a... If you have someone that you can play this week, then sure. My issue is if we're 5 and 6 and looking at going through and trying to win right now, Metcalf was not at practice. We don't know the health of Geno for Thursday. They're going up against the Niners, so I don't even want to start him anyway. I will say long-term, though, I probably do prefer Metcalf over Gus Edwards if the touchdown volume escapes Edwards. Now, Kevin says 8-3, 10-team keeper league, full BBR. We have Dak, Mixon, Brian Robinson, Lamb, Terry Ayuk, Kelsey Pacheco, and then on the bench, Singletary, Dotson, JSN, Khalil, Purdy, Fields. Need to drop someone and want to use the quarterbacks for trades. Who would you drop and any trade ideas? So if we had to drop someone from this team, it would probably end up being Brock Purdy. I would rather not do that, right? So what we would rather do is I would rather take Brock Purdy and send him with Jahan Dotson and go get an upgrade at wide receiver. Or take Justin Fields and send him with Devin Singletary and go get an upgrade at running back. Or take Dak Prescott and send him with Joe Mixon and go get an upgrade at running back, someone that's going to be in a better offense. That would be my preference. Like if you can take Dak Prescott, Joe Mixon, and go get like Jonathan Taylor, then going forward, we can just play Justin Fields and Brock Purdy, go with them based off matchups. Then we don't have to drop one of these guys that has a considerable amount of value. I think that's my preference. And if you had to drop someone without making a trade here, the drop in my mind probably would be one of the quarterbacks and probably Brock Purdy. Now, Scuff says, start 10, 4 flex spots, 8-3, Jefferson on the IR. Good offered my Debo Montgomery for Ridley, Kamara, in a late second. We have Brian Robinson, Pacheco, Zeke, Flowers, Waddle, Sutton, Noah Brown. So the late second, not really going to make a big difference here. We're a contending team. We are looking to get points in the lineup right now. Operating under the assumption it's a full PBR format, I think you would easily prefer Kamara over Montgomery if we're looking for points right now. Even if obviously Kamara is a little bit older than Montgomery here, we're not really thinking long term. Debo versus Ridley. While Ridley is coming off a super hot week, I actually think that it is pretty damn close between the two guys. If it is a full PPR format, I think we're going to go with the Kamara side. I think that gives you a better shot to contend. Non-PPR league, we're going to go Montgomery. Parker says, start 2, full PPR wide receiver and a flex. Waddle, Olave, Charbonnet, Ridley, and Addison. I'm going to go with Olave for the wide receiver slot. For the flex, we are going to go Charbonnet, most likely, assuming Geno Smith plays and Kenneth Walker does not. Roberto says 5-6, 12 team, 5 wins in a row. Hell yes. Finishing strong, like always. My team is terrified. For which wide receiver would you trade Pacheco, Singletary, Charbonnet? So if you are looking at wide receivers that you can possibly go out there and get right now, let me pull up the flogfantasy.com community rankings. Just to give us an idea of what we can reasonably expect in terms of a price point here. And like I always give the warning, these are not my rankings. If you can hit add creator and you could look at my rankings on flogfantasy.com. But no, these are the community rankings. So that means, and these aren't the expert rankings either. If you go through, refresh this page, you'll see every time you go to flogfantasy.com, it'll prompt you. It'll say, hey, rank these guys how you want them. I'd rather have Travis Etienne probably than Josh Allen and Mahomes over Breece Hall. Hit submit. We get that data point on the back end. Then we go through and we make these yada, yada, yada. Y'all know the deal. But anyway, and these are free, by the way, for anybody who wants to use them for things like this. So if you're looking to trade, say, Charbonnet. Oh, sorry, we have to expand this page. I'm an idiot. Okay. Charbonnet right now is at 67 overall. The wide receivers directly out of him are Flowers, Debo. here I would sell Charbonnet for Debo if we needed a wide receiver. If we're looking at Devin Singletary, Singletary's at 63 overall. The wide receivers directly out of him are Kirk, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf. I would sell him for Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf straight up if you wanted. Looking at Isaiah Pacheco, Pacheco's at 49 overall. And with Pacheco, I'd be looking to sell him for like Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman if you needed a wide receiver. So hopefully that helps giving you a realistic data point on how people are currently valuing these guys. Sleep deprived, always happy to see us. Sab BBR, Allen, Dell, Puka, Montgomery, Pacheco, Kelsey, Chase, Collins, Zay, Cook, Kyron, Singletary. Wanting to start Kyron, James Cook looked better this past week. Should we start another play over Chase? Hate to ask. So I'm going to go ahead. I will still start Chase here. If you wanted to get someone in, I would go Kyron over James Cook, with Cook having a very tough matchup against the Eagles. And if you were looking to start Kyron Williams, it would probably end up having to be over Isaiah Pacheco, which I don't think you need to rush this. I think you just let Kyron sit on the bench for now, see what he does coming off the injury, and then maybe we can obviously reevaluate if he does impress off of his stint on the IR. Now, AJ says, pick two, Warren, Charbonnet, or Ramadre in a full PPR format. I'm going to go with Charbonnet and Ramadre. You can make an argument rest of season. You may want Warren if you think no Matt Canada is going to lead to more Jalen Warren usage. Drew says, Mr. Mason Man, how much did Pollard pay you? This is the crazy thing. Like, I mean, I've turned into the Pollard guy saying that you have to start Tony Pollard. But I mean, ultimately, if you look at my teams, I make money when Tony Pollard does not do well. I am rooting against Tony Pollard, to be honest with you. But we have a 10-team BBR 5 and 6. Dobbs, Jacobs, Gibbs, Puka, Waddle, Schultz, Herbert. And then on the bench, Deontay, Tua, and Brandon Cooks. Any moves? Honestly, no. I think it's a very good team. If you wanted to make any swaps, a full BBR, I'd probably start Deontay Johnson over Khalil Herbert. And I also probably start Tua there most weeks over Joshua Dobbs. If you really wanted to start Joshua Dobbs this week with him having a much better matchup, I'm not going to fault you for it. But yeah, I'm planning on Tua. I'll probably still do Tua, to be honest. Adam says, PBR, 3 receivers in a flex. 5-way tie for first at 7 and 4. We have Herbert, JT, Pollard, DJ, Nico, Puka, Kincaid, Saquon. Bench is Bijan, Laporta, Higgins, Brown, Kyler, Elijah. Jefferson owner only wants Herbert, Puka. Should we make the trade? So we do have Kyler to fill in for Herbert. Not too much of a drop-off. And we have a considerable amount of depth here. I'm operating under the assumption that this is an 8-team league, that this is a 10-team league. This is a nutso roster, which is why I think that it probably is. And under that assumption where it's a shallow format and we probably just want to go out there and get the best player, and we have the fill-in at quarterback, yes, I think you can go ahead and do this. I think you can go ahead and make that play for Jefferson. The issue is, of course, that if he doesn't play this week, and also you have him on the bye week next week, you're not going to get him for 2 weeks. Now, Bodie's happy to see us. Says full BBR, double flex. We have Mahomes, Eckler, Brees, Connor, Jefferson, Lamb, Dell, Laporta. Traded Lockett, Shaheed for Downs. How are we feeling about the team in second place? Second place, I think you are comfortable because for the playoffs, Jefferson should be back in. And I'm really hoping that Downs does outscore Lockett going forward. I mean, I would be very excited about that with how much I drafted him. Does seem like probably a pretty aggressive price point, though, to go out there and make that trade. Now, Country Connected says 8 and 3, Goff, Kyler, Fields, Bijan, Ramadre, Singletary, Ayuk, Deontay, Addison, TJ. We need 1 running back, 1 receiver, and 3 flexes. Trade Deontay and Kyler for Ridley or a similar move. So I understand where you're coming from, right? Where we have 3 quarterbacks. 100%, I would like to make a similar move to this. I would just say that Ridley is not necessarily the guy that I want to be buying at that price point. Probably would rather be looking at a wide receiver in like the Michael Pittman, Devonta Smith, Adam Thielen, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore range. Someone that we've had the consistent production from all season. Now, Yambone says, my friend traded Pollard away from McLaurin. Can we get an F in the chat? Can everybody spam the chat with Fs? I mean, just an ultimate fail. They're trading Pollard for McLaurin as someone who didn't really draft much of either of these guys. You take the guy that's getting the volume in the great offense in Dallas. Lord Vader says the team is Hurts, Bijan, Etienne, Cook, Diggs, Collins, Myers, Pickens, Hockenson at tight end. Who should we trade him? 5 and 6 right now. Feel like we need a wide receiver too. Should we send Bijan? I would say no. If you are looking to make a trade, I think you pack together Cook and Collins and see if you can go get an upgrade at wide receiver too. In reality, I don't think you have to make any moves. I understand the thought process here, especially as we approach the Stephon Diggs bye week. In reality, what I think we do is I think that we just continuously work the waiver wire and see if we can backfill wide receiver depth. I think you have a great team at the top end. Flawless says full BBR, Pollard and Amari for Connor and Diggs. Oh, give me Connor and Diggs, not close. Lord Vader says, I offered someone Bijan for Kirk and Waddle. I'd rather have Bijan. Brandon says 10 team, have BBR, 3 receivers, 2 flex. 6 and 5. We have Tua, Dobbs, Saquon, Pacheco, Najee, Spears, Olave, Ayuk, Dell, Evans, Sutton, Hopkins, Kelsey, Kmet. Need a trade or holds? I mean, this is a great team. The only thing that I would look to do is maybe we can approach the Andrews owner and say, hey, man, I'll give you a Cortland Sutton, who we've already discussed in that video earlier yesterday or today. I don't know when it came out, but about Cortland Sutton's touchdown rate being a little bit unsustainable. If you want to see if we can sell Kmet and Sutton to go get an upgrade at wide receiver when we have Kelsey, I'd look to do that. Cal says Starwich 3, Tyreek, Tank, Puka, Thielen, and Devontae. We're going to go with Tyreek, Tank, and Puka. The other argument you could make is Devontae over Tank. That's maybe you go Tank if you have no Noah Brown, and if Noah Brown plays, you go Devontae. Now, CB says 12-team full BBR, 6 and 5. We have Hurts, Eckler, Bijan, AJ Jefferson, Dell, Achane. And then on the bench, Godwin, Dillon, Thomas, Goff, any moves. To be honest with you, very well balanced format. Don't really think that you have too many moves here. I mean, we need the depth still with the Jefferson injury. We're just waiting for Jefferson to come back in. So, yeah, honestly, don't really make any moves here. I think you're just kind of chilling. Uncle Drew says 10-team at BBR, 5 and 6. We have Allen, Jacobs, Swift, Sutton, Kirk, Hockenson, Brian Robinson. Who do we start on the bench? London, Hubbard, or Tyler Lockett? We lost Chubb and Andrews and need a W. Hubbard's not startable now that Miles Sanders is seeing 50% of that backfield as well. I would say we're going to go London if Metcalf plays and Geno's banged up. If Metcalf misses and Geno's good to go, then we'll go Lockett. I mean, obviously a lot up in the air right now with the injuries in Seattle. But Cruz coming out saying, have BBR. We have Hurts, Brown, Saquon, Hockenson. We get one flex and another flex. Which 3 do we pick? Kirk, Flowers, Downs, Chandler, Kyron, and Eckler. We're going to go Eckler, Kirk, Kyron. Eckler, Kirk, Kyron, and Chandler is safe to drop with Madison healthy. Thin Blue Line says, going back to my DK for Gus offer, I could probably get Pittman instead of DK. I would definitely rather get Pittman. If it's Pittman, I think it's a no-brainer. Adrian says, 12-team, 2 quarterback, trade Dell for a mid-first. I would rather have the first, to be honest. 1 quarterback format, maybe a little bit different, but without loaded this 2024 classes. And also the primary thing being is if you pick up that extra first-round pick right now, you're going to have so much flexibility in the offseason where we know that asset's going to continue to rise in value. So we're going to go with the first. Jim says, should we trade White for Njoku? We have Andrews, my running backs, for CMC, Kamara, and Warren. No, if you're trading White, you need Kincaid, you need Laporta. You need more than Njoku. Drew says trade TJ for Ayuk, other tight ends Kincaid. It's a 10-team PBR league where we are absolutely loaded here. You can if you want. It's a very fair deal. I mean, I'd possibly look for a different wide receiver, but that's just me. I mean, if you're this loaded, maybe you could be the guy that waits around to get Jefferson back in. Now, Jacob says 10-team PBR 7-4 in a 3-way tie for second place. We have Hurts, Bijan, JT, Evan, Schultz, Nico, Ridley, Myers, Stroud, lost Andrews. So traded Walker for McBride and Pacheco. I think it's a fine deal here, especially in a full PPR league. Waivers, Charbonnet, Warren, JSN. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Also, we're going to cut Jacoby Myers, go pick up Zach Charbonnet or Jalen Warren. Up to you. Yeah, good team, good trade, especially in a full BBR format. Not super pumped about Kenneth Walker. Now, Chinaman says 10-team BBRs 8-3. We have Hurts, Warren, St. Brown, Kincaid, Charbonnet, Walker, Rice, Amari, Javonte, Bryant, Robinson, Jefferson. Just traded Barkley and Pittman for Breece Hall. Win or loss? Honestly, probably a loss. I understand that we are loaded here. We can afford to go out there and make this play. And while Saquon Barkley is in a horrendous offense, I can't say, oh, Saquon Barkley is in a horrible offense. Let's go trade for Breece Hall, right? I mean, even with them moving away from Zach Wilson, they do have the lowest implied team total of any team in the NFL this week. It's still pretty hard to get excited about this team. Michael says 6-5 and we need a win. At RB2, do we start Henry or Achane? CMC's are RB1. Henry gives the higher floor with the good matchup against Carolina. I think Achane gives the higher ceiling. Or start both. Oh, yeah, I would start both of them over these receivers. If Achane's good to go. Obviously, we're going to have to continue to monitor the practice reports for Achane, though. But I'd start him over the receivers. Keep in mind, Waddle, just brutal matchup going up against the Jets. Now, BB says, full BBR 7-4. Want to get Jefferson or Tyreek. Both owners need a quarterback. We have Stroud, CMC, JT All, Puka, Chase, Waddle, Kincaid, Laporta, Devonta, Connor, Kyler, Hopkins. I mean, you trade any of the quarterbacks on your roster with any of the wide receivers for Tyreek Hill. I mean, say if we can send CJ Stroud and Jamar Chase or Kyler Murray, Jamar Chase and go get Tyreek Hill, it's an absolute no-brainer. Maybe you make that play for Jefferson if you can hold off for the Jefferson production. And I'd be even willing to throw in one of the tight ends to get it done if we're going to get Tyreek in particular. Fisher says, lost by half a point because of Mahomes instead of Stroud. Oh, that sucks, my friend. I mean, cannot blame yourself for that. I mean, playing Patrick Mahomes is something you're going to have to do every single week. So I don't think you can kick yourself for it, my friend. But Michael says, made a trade in a full BBR. I gave away Mixon, Ramondre Amari, and Kincaid for Breece, Olave, Laporta. Mixon to Hall, give me Hall. Amari to Olave, give me Olave. Kincaid, Laporta, up to you. We paid Stevenson to get it done. I mean, if you have the depth, I definitely think it's a fine trade. And we talked about this a little earlier on in the live stream. But if you just compare Mixon to Breece Hall, they're both in horrendous offenses. I would have rather had Mixon with Burrow's good to go. But now that they're both in offenses that are this bad, probably give me the younger, more talented back. But real quick, ladies and gentlemen, less than 10% of you, well less than 10% of y'all have hit that like button. Hit that like button if you have not done so already, please. Nora says, start 2, Cup if he plays, Dell, Charbonnet. The issue is Charbonnet plays on Thursday. We're not going to have the clarity with Cup. I'd go Cup and Dell if it's a full BBR format, but we just simply may not know. Creed B. Fit says, hey, Mason, in a dilemma, 7-4, 10-team full BBR. We have Goff and Dobbs. Stroud owner has Hurts, but he wants Charbonnet. Should we do it? It's a 6-point passing. Oh, yeah. I mean, Charbonnet to CJ Stroud, I think, is a very viable trade. I mean, obviously, it does put us in a spot where we're having to drop one of these quarterbacks at this point. Maybe you have to drop Joshua Dobbs because we can't roster 3, but I think we make it. Luke says, wanted to do 2-for-1 to upgrade a wide receiver. Which 2 would you recommend trading out of Deontay, McLaurin, Hopkins, and who would you trade for? I don't know. I mean, all these guys have been on sell high videos for us over the past, I want to say 6 weeks at respective points. Let's look at where they are in the flogfantasy.com community rankings. So like I said, these are not my rankings. So the rankings based off of how y'all are valuing these players. Terry's in here at 57. Hopkins, 62. Deontay, 69. I'd probably sell the guys. I think they're all about the same. I'd sell the guys that people are most excited about so we can get the best. We'll look to sell Terry and Hopkins there and see if we can get up to, if we're looking at wide receivers, see if we can get up to like DJ Moore, Evans, Devontae Adams, Tank Dell, Olave, Puka, Ayuk, someone in that range. Now, Armando says 12-team BBR was offered JT for Ramadre and Dell. Oh, give me JT. We have Herbert, Bijan, Stevenson, Cook, Warren. Yeah, so we have the depth here as well. I think we go ahead and we take Jonathan Taylor, my friend. Now, Milan says Jacobs or Mostert. Probably going to go Mostert this week. Ayuk, Ridley. We're going to go Ayuk. Yeah, especially over Zay Flowers as well. So go Mostert and Ayuk. Timeout Sports says, Mason, my dude, running back help, please. Non-PPR. We have CMC, Connor, Rashad, Dylan, Hunt. Can play 3 at the very max. Play Dylan, though. Aaron, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend. You know, I appreciate you. I mean, I played A.J. Dillon multiple times at the beginning of this season when you had no Aaron Jones, and he did absolutely nothing for us. I'm trying to pull up that stat line of what you had with A.J. Dillon with no Aaron Jones. The issue was, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter as much here with this being a non-PPR format. I was going to say the issue was he's just not catching the ball at all. So we had no Aaron Jones like weeks 2, 3, 4, right? 55 rushing yards, 33 rushing yards, 11 rushing yards. A.J. Dillon in those weeks, 8 receiving yards, 0 receiving yards, 0 receiving yards. So I'd say we're still going to go CMC, Connor, and Rashad White, even in a non-PPR format. We're obviously, we would prefer those receivers a little bit more in a full PPR league. Okay. Now, Trayton says we have Herbert, Bijan, Gus, Kyron, Lamb, Evans, T, Mark Andrews. We just got Ferguson. Who's the flex? Should we trade Kyron for Tank in a 12-team full PPR format? I would trade Gus before I trade Kyron. I'm gonna play Bijan, Kyron, Lamb, Evans, and we will flex Gus. I mean, if you wanted to sell Kyron, you can. My issue is, while Gus has been great, I just don't really trust him from a full PPR standpoint rest of season here. Brandon says trade away Lamb, Charbonnet, Ridley to get Waddle and Gibbs. Charbonnet, Ridley to Gibbs, upgrade. Lamb to Waddle, massive downgrade. The current team's Allen, Bijan, Charbonnet. Okay, so we have a great team. Amon-Ra, Lamb, Chase, Kittle. Great team. I would probably keep the best player with CeeDee Lamb here. I think that CeeDee Lamb has more value than that. Now, Basil says 1 game out of the playoffs, 10-team BBR. We have Mahomes, Henry, Hall, Ramondre, Jefferson, Kupp, Godwin, Njoku, Kyler. Any moves? Mahomes and Hall for Etienne and Dell. So Hall to Etienne upgrade. Mahomes to Dell downgrade. Jefferson and Godwin for Pollard, Evans, Thielen. Godwin to Thielen upgrade. Jefferson to Pollard and Evans downgrade. I don't mind these ideas, right? Because you may find yourself in a position where you kind of have to go through and you have to sell Jefferson if we are out of the playoffs right now just to get some points in. These price points aren't great. I would do the first one if we could sell Kyler instead of Mahomes. And there's a decent chance we can do that as well. I know people are worried about Mahomes here. So that's what I would look to do. I would look to sell Kyler instead. And if we get news regarding Jefferson missing this week and waiting it out through the bye, I agree. I think we look to sell Justin Jefferson. Now, OG says, what's good, Mace? 14-team full BBR. Start 5. Puka, Addison, Ridley, Smith, Charbonnet, White, Henry, Kyron. Will this team compete in the playoffs? In a 14-team league, hell yes. We're going to go with Smith, White, Henry, Kyron. No, I'm sorry. We're going to go Puka, White, Henry, Kyron. And then between Smith, Addison, Ridley, Charbonnet, in a full BBR format, we will go ahead and we'll just take Devonta Smith with no Dallas Goedert. But yeah, I mean, 14-team league, that team has a ton of depth. Dylan says trade away Adams and Mixon for Lamb. We have depth. And yeah, go get Lamb. Milan says, kind of scared of Tua's matchups in the playoffs. Should we pick up Love, Gino, or Ricard just to have another option? You can, but I'll never start him over Tua regardless of matchup. But you can if you want. Demetrio says, Mason, Brock or Goff? Ooh. Tough spot here. Let me pull up the implied team totals. 27 points for the Lions, about 24.5 for the Niners. Probably Brock. Flowers, McLaurin, non-PPR. McLaurin, very tough matchup. Non-PPR format, I actually assume that you maybe have a little more touchdown upside with Flowers. Basil says, I can also get Brian Robinson in the Pollard deal. If you can throw in Brian Robinson, I like it. If you can get Brian Robinson in there for free, I like it. Flock Soldier says, go Longhorns, full BBR. We have Lawrence, Ayuk, Waddle, Kirk, Etienne, Mostert, Kmet, Ridley. And then on the bench, Hopkins, Madison, Myers, Taysom. We have a lot of Jags. What you think? I think we're going to be good if Zay Jones continues to elevate this offense, my man. The question is, does that happen? I like the team. I think it's a very well-balanced format well-balanced roster as well. Probably we're just going to be looking to make waiver wire moves as the season goes on. Clutchbox Abadesi says, Yo Mason, in a tight end premium, would you start Njoku or Dobbs in the flex? Probably David Njoku coming off a 15-target week. Brogan Euro says 10-team BBR 6-5. Gibbs, Montgomery, Barkley, White, Pacheco, Robinson, Lamb, Deontay, Downs, Myers, Higgins. Can we move some of these running backs for a wide receiver upgrade, and who? I'd be looking to sell Montgomery in the full BBR format with the amount of name value that he has. And if you wanted to sell Montgomery and Deontay Johnson, to go back and look at the flockfantasy.com community rankings. Right now, Montgomery here is at 25. We're looking at the guys ahead of him because we're adding Deontay to him. So maybe if you want to get to Chase, Jefferson, obviously anybody inside the top 10. That could be something you look at, or in the Brandon Ayuk range. Jason coming out with the donation. Thank you, my man. Thank you. And Rodrigo says, hey, bro, 10-team BBR. We have Kittle and Pollard for Diggs. Eckler, Connor, H.N. McBride. Other receivers are Chase, Olave, Rice. Oh, yeah, let's go ahead and let's just get Diggs here. I mean, great team, 10-team format, so depth's not going to matter as much. We have McBride we can start as well at tight end. I think we go ahead and make that move. Brian, always happy to see it, my friend. Let me go ahead and make you a moderator. I have no idea how you're not a mod already. But happy to be our 10-team Superflex. We have the 101, 105, 107, 108. No running backs. That's how we like it on a teardown. Stroud, Mack, Lance, Dell, Dotson, Johnston, Mims, Mingo, Pitts. Do I turn later 3 first for Herbert or hold on to the picks? We want Marvin Harrison Jr. Trade the 107 for the 108 the first seconds. You are way overthinking this. And this is something that I used to do in Dynasty as well. And I mean, if you set up that rebuild, it feels like we should consistently be making moves, right? We have all these picks. We have kind of a monopoly in a way of the rookie class. Let's go out there. Let's make moves. Let's put ourselves in the best position we possibly can. You've already done that. To be honest with you, you've already done that. The best thing you can do at this point is sit on your hands, let the season play out. When these first round picks are guaranteed to continue to increase in value, especially with this being a Superflex format. When everybody all offseason only hears about these rookies over and over and over again. I mean, they're going to have to go to one person only to get into the first round, and that's going to be you. So I know they may be burning a hole in your pocket. Don't overthink it. Hold on to them and just stay the course. Mark says 10-team PBR 9-2. Allen, CMC, Swift, St. Brown, Kirk, Pacheco, Gus, Cook, Mostert, Amari. We lost Andrews. Trade for Kincaid or Laporta and consider a trade for DK or Jefferson for the playoffs. So 9-2, yeah, I mean, you could go out there and you could go get Jefferson. If you wanted to send, like, say, Pacheco and Kirk or Gus and Kirk, if we can pull that off to go get Jefferson, we're doing it in a heartbeat. And then I would prefer Kincaid over Laporta, but I do think that both guys would be quality targets. I'd be happy to sell Gus and Amari and go get either guy. Now, Ray says traded Allen, Diggs, Warren, Madison for Mahomes and Tyreek. Allen to Mahomes, slight downgrade. Diggs, Warren, Madison to Tyreek. Give me Tyreek. We also have Kyler. What running back can we get for Kyler, Charbonnet, Rice? Go Huskies. Let's go ahead and let's pull up where these guys currently are valued. So Kyler's the centerpiece of this. Kyler, and we're looking at running backs ahead of him. So we're going to be skipping the early group of guys because we're adding Charbonnet and Rice. So we're going to skip over Mixon, skip over Achane. You're probably going to be looking at any running back ahead of Achane in these rankings. So like Montgomery, Rashad White, Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift. And of course, those aren't my rankings. Those are the community rankings, just to give an idea of expected trade value in your league. But Milan says, what kind of running back can we give for in a trade of Jacobs and one of Cook or Madison? So Jacobs right now currently is sitting here. So if you're looking to get up, I would say we're going to be targeting like the Bijan Robinson range right here, my friend. Now, Kevin says 12 team, 6-4, happy BR, 3 wide receiver, single flex. We have Stroud, Dobbs, JT Mixon, Singletary, Chandler, Tyreek, DK, Douglas T, Jason Dotson. Any moves or hold tight? We have wide receivers with upside. We don't really have guys that we can confidently rely on outside of like the very top end, right? I would say we're probably not going to make any massive trades. The only thing is just continue to churn this waiver wire. And I think that Chandler at this point is going to be droppable. But Alex says, PBR trade Ramondre Pittman Kittle for Montgomery, Evans, Kirk, Kmet. 4-7 need wins now. We have Allen, Diggs, Jacobs, Hollywood, and Ford. Ramondre to Montgomery upgrade. Pittman to Evans lateral move. Kittle for Kmet downgrade. We need wins now. Everybody stood their bye. You can if you really wanted to. A full BBR format, I will be a little bit less excited about going out there and trading for David Montgomery. In a full PBR league in particular. Now, the Patient Plum says 12-team PBR double flex. I'm on a 6-game skid. We have Mahomes, Brees, Mostert, Khalil, Dowdle, Cup, Debo, Cup's last 4 games, primary reason why. Godwin, Nico, Gabe, Elijah, Kittle, McBride. Got offered Kittle for Kyron, Wilson and Pollard for Kittle and Brees, should we? So 100%, when we have McBride, right, Kittle is someone that we can go through and we can look to sell. We have that viable tight ends. It's a double flex 12-team league as well, so that depth running back is going to matter a little bit more here. If you look at what you have right now with the community rankings and how these guys are being valued, currently you have Kittle at 56 overall. You have Kyron at 21 overall. So you do have the community rankings kind of backing you up here that maybe you would prefer Kyron over George Kittle. So yeah, with this team, with the community rankings, with this format, I think that is a move that we can make after checking those 3 boxes, which I think we do here. Now, Jason out against a 6-5. We have Lamar, CMC, Jacobs, Dell, Moore, McLaurin, Kincaid, Cook, Madison, Rice, Elijah, Russ, Stafford. We lost Cousins and Chubb. It's a Dynasty double flex. Only see White and Dobbs for picks. So this is a Dynasty league where we are built to win now, right? I mean, if you're looking at just assets that will lose value going into next season in Dynasty, CMC Jacobs will be worth less this offseason. DJ Moore McLaurin will be worth less this offseason. James Cook will be worth less. Alexander Madison will be worth less. Russ and Stafford will be worth less. So we are set up to contend. Obviously, this is an uphill battle after losing Nick Chubb. If you're saying that we could trade picks for like Rachaad White, Romeo Dobbs, typically whatever I say, like whenever we're looking to trade away picks on our contending teams in Dynasty is, if you need this, if you're trading for this player, does he actually move the needle? Does he win you your league? And when we get down to like Romeo Dobbs, I would say that if the answer to that question for you is yes, that trading a second round pick for Romeo Dobbs is gonna be something that helps your chances of winning right now, I would say you're probably not a real contender, at least in my mind. So if you wanted to trade for Rachaad White, like send a second round pick for White, if you think that White can help put you over the edge, let's go for it. Now, do not trade a first round pick for White, obviously, without the NFL treats running backs, which I have no idea if he's going to have a job next year. Nathan says 10-team non-PBR, 9-2. We lost Burrow. We have Jacobs, Hall, Montgomery, Chase, Amon-Ra, Puka, Smith, Hawkinson. Love worth the rest of our $20 fab. We have Geno as well. You know your waiver wire better than I do. I mean, obviously at this point of the season, the fab dollars aren't going to be worth too much. My thing is, maybe he's worth it for your team, but look elsewhere in your league. Is there another team that's going to be willing to go out there and blow like $18 of their fab budget on Jordan Love in a 10-team format? How many teams actually need QB? I would assume you could get Love just with a couple bucks. I mean, I'd go maybe $2 if you wanted to make sure you're going to get them, but I wouldn't spend our entire budget just because I don't know who you're going to be bidding against. John says 12-team full BBR. We're in 10th place, 4-7. We have Herbert, Kyler, Eckler, Taylor, Williams, Charbonnet, Smith, Olave, Jefferson, Amari, Kelsey, Kincaid. 3 defenses. Should we sell Jefferson for Lamb? Yes, sell Jefferson for Lamb ASAP if we're 4-7 and we need points right now. The second thing is we can sell Kincaid and another one of these options like Chris Olave to go get an upgrade at wide receiver at the same time. We have Kelsey that we can start every single week. And you could also look to sell maybe like, say, Kyler and Amari to go get an elite level wide receiver for the flex as well. I think that those would all be moves that we are looking to make, operating under the assumption that this is a redraft team. Hopefully the Cowboys can give us another 20-point week this week for the DST. Hopefully they can. Country Connected says 8-3. We have Kyler, Hall, Bijan, Amon-Ra, Keenan, Jefferson, Kincaid, Laporta, Ramadre, Pickens, Mostert, Brian Robinson. Great team. Yeah, it's a great team. I mean, if we're looking at making any moves here, we have so much running back depth. I mean, what can we do? I mean, the only thing that I do is, it's a very boring thing, is if we can collapse our running back room and maybe just send a 2-for-1 deal to get an upgrade in the starting lineup, I think that we would go ahead and do that. Like if you could send maybe a Brian or Raheem Mostert, right? Raheem Mostert, someone's been great. Maybe is good in the short term as well with the Devon Achane injury. But if you could send maybe Raheem Mostert and Breece Hall and just go get a running back you're more excited about, I mean, that's really like the only move you can do with a team that's that loaded. King says CMC, Kenneth Walker. Tight league, 8-3, Sanders or Foreman for the backup. Okay. I'm assuming you actually mean Royce Freeman. So Darrell Henderson did get cut today, but it's because Kyron Williams coming back in. I would probably rather have Sanders, because if Kyron were to get hurt again, then they're just going to pick up another running back. And Royce Freeman's had 0 receiving yards this year. Rich says, it is with a heavy heart I regret to inform the flock that Jacob has, oh my gosh, achieved his first win. He moves on to 1-10. This is a sad day, my friend. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. I typically never say that someone wins a fantasy football league because they got lucky, right? Especially I never want to say someone wins a single fantasy football matchup because they got lucky. But in the case of Jacob, I think I can confidently say there was 0 skill involved in this. And it was strictly luck there. In the case of Jacob, at least. Now, Logbart says, lost by 0.5 point with the Garrett Wilson 1-point game. Brutal. We're 6-5, so every win really matters here. It's a double flex league. We have Hurts, JT, Pollard, Puka, Smith, Kincaid, Connor, Wilson. We sold Godwin and Sutton for Andrews right before the injury. Tight playoffs, Puka for Olave. Really tough spot. So, I mean, at this point, we are looking at every single point as a big deal for us to get into the playoffs. I think I would probably rather have Puka in the short term, considering the fact that you do have a banged up Cooper Kupp, and if Kupp were to miss any time, then Puka is probably significantly better than what you're going to get from Olave. I would probably rather have Puka at this point on a team that needs to win right now. At least, I mean, I rank Puka out of them for this week. And I think that's like the number one priority. Just Sherman says Nico Collins or a future first. We're going to go with the future first relatively easily. I'm Johnny Day says 12-team Dynasty, PPR 8-3. We have Hurts, Jacobs, Saquon, Jones, Adams, Debo, Terry, Kittle. And then on the bench, Love, Ford, Hunt, Spears, Gallup, Rondale, Hyatt, Mims, Douglas, Schultz. Trade a first and a third for Eckler. So, I mean, obviously, this is a team that's going to be looking to win right now. We are 8-3, but I mean, am I wanting to go through and I'm really wanting to trade a first for Austin Eckler? Because the thing is, what's Eckler going to be worth this offseason? At the very most, we're calling it a second, right? Austin Eckler is already a running back that has shown a significant fall off in his efficiency and his usage. Austin Eckler will be 29 this offseason. If you think that Austin Eckler is what puts you over the edge, then sure, you can sell him for a first. I would at least keep the third. There's no reason you have to be paying the third to get it done, though. Now, Takato says start 2-2-1. We have Diggs, Nico, Lockett, Terry. And for running back, we have Taylor, Saquon, Achane, and Williams. Okay. Wide receiver, we're going to go Diggs, Nico. Running back, we're going to go Taylor, Saquon, and Achane if healthy for the flex. Kyron if not for the flex. Now, JBD says, looking for a wide receiver upgrade. It's a 14-team at BBR league where we're 8-3. We have Herbert, Brees, Saquon, Keenan, Ferguson, Ridley, Addison, Amari. Who should we try to trade for? I mean, if you wanted to make a 2-for-1 deal at wide receiver where we sent, say, Ridley and Amari and go out there and get to like the Michael Pittman range, I mean, maybe we can even shoot a little bit higher than that. Looking at flockfantasy.com, maybe we can look at any of the wide receivers really inside the top 10 at this point. Jeremiah says, need a running back in a PPR format. Actually, no, never mind, GBD. I'm sorry. This is a 14-team format. If it's a 14-team league and we're making that move, I think that, honestly, the threshold has to be a wide receiver inside the top 8. Just because that depth's going to be significantly harder to come by, and we want to be charging a premium if we are selling it. Jeremiah says, need a running back in a PPR. We have Najee, Connor, Hubbard. Got offered Chase or Devonta Smith for either Ford, Keaton, or Charbonnet for Diggs. Offered White for Diggs straight up. Okay. Offered Chase. So we would rather Chase over Smith. So we choose Chase and Charbonnet in that first deal. For Diggs, and offered White for Diggs straight up. I would rather have the Diggs side on both deals here. Stephon Diggs is worth more than this, my friend. Stephon Diggs is worth more. Now, Matt Sampson says, hopefully we said that correctly. 12-team at BBR, who should we target if we trade away Kupp and or JT? We have Lamar, Howell, Eckler, Robinson, Connor, Warren, Keenan, Ayuk, Metcalf, Allen, JT, Laporta, Pitts. I don't really want to be trading away Jonathan Taylor at this point. I mean, if you are trading away Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp together, Taylor's already a top 10 asset here in these rankings. If you're adding Cooper Kupp to him, I think you have to get like a top 3 asset here. I mean, if we could sell Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp and get to Tyreek Hill, CMC, let's do it. In reality, I'd imagine that's probably a reject. If you look at where Cooper Kupp is in these rankings, Kupp's currently sitting at 36. Honestly, out of these guys here in this range, I'd probably just rather have Kupp. Like, I don't know if I want to be selling Kupp for Smith, Kincaid, Pittman. So while he's been very bad, at the same time, it is understandable in that, yeah, the injury to Stafford and the injury to Cooper Kupp himself as well. Now, Bob the Builder says, Stroud, Mahomes, Charbonnet, Walker, Jacobs, Pollard, Wilson, St. Brown, Puka, JSN, Flowers, Laporta. What moves can we make? Also, who should we put in the flex? Charbonnet, Flowers, or Garrett Wilson? Thanks for everything, Mason. Appreciate you, my friend. If Geno plays and Kenneth Walker does not, I'm going to go ahead. I will take Zach Charbonnet. And then if you were looking to make any moves, it's super simple. We go through and we sell the elite level. I don't want to say elite. Let's call him elite. The elite level quarterback in CJ Stroud when we have Patrick Mahomes and we go get an upgrade elsewhere, right? If we were to make a move, that is what we do, my friend. Now, Jonathan says 12-team, 6-5. Made 5th for the playoffs. Traded away Chase Montgomery for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Full BBR format, I like it. We have Kyler Fields, Hall, Gibbs, Charbonnet, Puka, Smith, Nico, Kincaid, JSN, Frymuth. What are your thoughts? I like taking the piece, adding it to Jamar Chase, and getting to a wide receiver in the top 3. Getting out of that offense, I think, does make a lot of sense. Ultimately, Chase should find himself in the same range as like Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson going forward. But Nathan, longtime member of the flock, always happy to see us. To say Mason, 9-2 in a 2 QB 10-team dynasty league. We have Herbert, Goff, Pacheco, Stevenson, Hall, Olave, Puka, Debo, Keenan. We also have Hockenson and Laporta. Is it worth selling one? I would say no. I mean, it's not like if you wanted to sell one, if we can get an elite level RB that's going to help us win right now. Then sure, you can go ahead and do it. But it really is going to be price dependent. What's nice is their value is not going anywhere, right? So if their value is not going anywhere, I mean, ultimately you are in a situation where you're in the driver's seat, you're in the position of power, and it's not like you need to go out there and you need to be looking for a price point to offload these guys. Nathaniel says 6-5 in a 12-team single flex league. We have Lawrence, Etienne, Bijan, Chase, Smith, Dell, Laporta. Kirk, Zay, Singletary, Taysom, Khalil, Jason, Keaton. We had Burrow with the injury. What do we do about Chase and thoughts on the team? I like the team. Obviously, it would have been much better without the Burrow injury. And going back to what we were looking at with a deal previously, if you can find yourself in a position where you go ahead and if you can package a smaller piece with Jamar Chase to get to another wide receiver that's there inside the top 3, like if you can package Zay Flowers and Chase and go get Amon-Ra St. Brown, if you could package Chase and Singletary and go get A.J. Brown, like that is a move I'm looking to make just to get out of this offense right now. We can send those offers and see what happens. In reality, I'd assume that they get shot down. It can't hurt to send out and see what happens. Outside of that, it is a very well-balanced roster, which need to continue to trend the bottom of the roster for waiver wire options. LOL says Holland Charbonnet for JT. I'd rather have JT here. Team Exposure says 10-team. I'm 7-4 for the second seed. I traded Terry for Olave. Great move. We have Stroud, Henry, Swift, Debo, Olave, Kelsey, Sutton. On my bench, Odell, Myers, Jones, London, Watson. What do you think? I like the team. I mean, 10-team league does feel a little bit weak to have Sutton there as our third best receiver, but ultimately, I think we made a great trade going out and getting Olave, and with us having Kelsey, we do have a lot of flexibility. Hope that Henry can start playing better. I mean, this week should be fine against the Panthers. Max says 8-3 PBR double flex, 10-team league. We have Mahomes, Kyler, Barkley, Swift, Ramondre, Devonta Smith, Puka, Addison, Deontay, Laporta, Ferguson. Any moves? Mahomes and Barkley for Austin Eckler. Great team. I understand the thought process and I like the idea. My only hesitation is I think that at this point I am coming away with the conclusion that Austin Eckler isn't that elite tier of RB. It's hard to put him there when he's just not getting that same type of involvement as a receiver as you would naturally expect. So while when we have Kyler and Mahomes, we can afford to sell one of these guys. While we have a lot of depth here where we can afford to go and get that top tier player, I just don't know if Kyler is that dude, to be honest. I'm sorry, not Kyler, Eckler. Carlos says 10 TBBR 8-3 in first. We have Allen, Diggs, Lamb, Kincaid, Kamara, Gibbs, Puka, and then on the bench, Kittle, Javonte, Connor, Kittle, Davis, Kyler. Any moves? Super strong roster. I mean, the only thing is, if you're this strong, can't hurt to sell Kittle and Puka and see if you can go get an elite level player for the flex, right? I mean, we have Kincaid in there in the starting lineup. So, I mean, that's a move you can look at. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of flexibility. You're in the position of strength there. Max says 10 team BBR, single flex, 5 and 6. We have Dak, Eckler, Hall, Lamb, Waddle, Kincaid, Ridley. And then on the bench, Mostert, Flowers. Any moves, and who do we start this week? Okay. I don't think we have any long-term moves. If we're submitting a starting lineup, I will say let's probably put Mostert over Ridley for this week if Achane's going to be banged up. If you were telling me, Mason, I have full faith in Calvin Ridley now that Zay Jones is in, Calvin Ridley's an elite level receiver, then maybe you play Mostert over Waddle, given the very tough matchup that Waddle has. Now, Spartan Warrior says 10 team BBR 8-3. Get Swift for Stroud, Kyron, Pittman. Might be able to get him down to Stroud, Kyron. Do we do it? Stroud, Kyron, when we have Jalen Hurts, yes. Adding in Pittman definitely is going to be a little bit too much. Country Connected says, with the team I last sent, would you trade Jefferson for Gibbs to upgrade? We have Hall, Bijan, Ramondre in the flex right now. Let me pull up this team one more time, my friend. It's going to be most important about this, to be honest, will be the record. Oh, we're 8-3. No, if you're 8-3, you keep Jefferson. Yeah, keep Jefferson. Maybe if we were like 4-7 and fighting it out for the playoff spot, I'd say yes, but no, not with that record. G Dollar says, thoughts on McBride, Kincaid with the Ertz and Knox return. I have no worries at all. These are young tight ends that are broken out. I do not think that they're going to be turning back around and using the other older guys. Dragon the Beast says, why do you tell us to trade Kittle for Laporta? I'm sorry, my friend. I actually drafted Kittle everywhere over Laporta. I mean, I have a lot of Kittle and I have no Laporta. I wish I had Laporta. He was the much better value in drafts. So I'm kind of happy to see that Kittle is going out there not producing him, though, to be honest. I'm happy to see it, but if you looked at the splits with and without Deebo Samuel, I mean, in my mind, there was kind of a spot where we wanted to go ahead and we just wanted to take Laporta. Now, Emilio says, 12-team at BBR 4-7, win or go home. We have Dobbs, Montgomery, HN, Evans, Dell, Hill, in the flex, Kirk or Williams. Should we trade HN for Mostert? Who should we start in any other trades? So we will go Williams there in the flex over Kirk. 4-7, obviously in a win or go home situation. HN does put us in a difficult spot, and if HN is ruled out on a 4-7 team, just go ahead and just trade him. Get him out of here and go get someone that's going to play like Mostert. Just go get someone that's going to play. Now, David says 12-team PBR 6-point passing touchdown. 4-7, still in playoff contention. Any ideas? Lawrence, White, Javonte, Waddle, Smith, Dell, Ingram, Ridley. And then on the bench, Jason, Warren, and London. I don't have much. I think you've already kind of done what you can with this team. The only thing I'd say is if you can maybe, like a JSN, someone that's not startable. He's a great playoff schedule. Maybe he has some upside here as well. So if you could sell JSN and package them together with like Tank Dell, these rookie wide receivers that may continue to get better. And go get someone that's going to help us right now. I mean, that may be a move that we look to make, even if we sacrifice long-term upside. Dude Jazzy Jeff says, just got Devonta Smith for Trey and Addison. We have Schultz. What do you think? I don't like it. I mean, obviously, it does depend on if Jefferson ever comes back, but I'm assuming he does. But I think that should be it for this live stream. Thank you again, everybody, for hanging out with us. Of course, I really appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day. Side note, a couple of my favorite underdog pick'ems this week. Brock Purdy for less than half an interception. Really like that one. And if you use promo code FLUCK, you're also going to get CMC more than less than half a total yard that you can pair it up with. But yeah, thank you again. Promo code FLUCK will give you a 100% deposit match on Underdog Fantasy, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and that CMC special pick'em. And real quick, Country Connected says, last team I'll bug you about, 4-7. Dak, Henry, White, Cup, Zay, Kittle, Connor, Deontay, Purdy, Amari, Keaton, Moore, Komet. Any moves, desperate times. 4-7, we need a win right now. So honestly, this would be one of those teams where maybe you go through and maybe you sell Cooper Kupp just to get someone in that's going to produce right this second. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really, really do appreciate you, and I really hope that you have a great night.